Well, welcome to Mrs. Landon's Proficiency-Based Personalized Learning by Learning Objective Classroom. This video is going to give you a quick overview of what the standard year will look like and feel like for the students taking Mrs. Landon's math courses. The feel of my math classroom is one of a normal classroom where there's standard lecture and students are working, but I try to make it more of a flexible learning spaces and giving students choice and options in where they learn and how they learn. The first thing is the flexible learning spaces. There is going to definitely be whole group instruction going on. There's collaborative spaces students can work at, and there's individual spaces. You're going to notice here in the various images, there are some high top tables that students can sit at. There's a dining table where they can collaborate together. There are also some side comfy spots for students that work better in a comfier, maybe a disc chair. There's also some side tables here where students can either work individually or with a partner if that's a better space for them. And don't worry, there are still the standard student desks where students can work individually or with groups also. The other option I do offer is if you are paced ahead on the material, which means you've already done the work for today's lecture or you're even further ahead, you can actually go to the school's Flex Scheduler, which is on our Schoology site, and you would flex out to the Commons area or to the Media Center and work on some other material or continue to work ahead on the classroom. This is a really good option for those students that are independent and can be accountable for working in a different area. Now, no matter which math class you're in of mine, I use the same format for all of them. Schoology is the primary basis, and you will find all the information that you need on Schoology. Every chapter is organized into its own individual folder, and on the outside of that folder you're going to see all of the learning objectives that will be covered and taught during that chapter. In addition, if you want to know what's going on for the week, over here on the right you will have the weekly plan. You will see what assignments are going to be due, what work might have to be uploaded, when there may be a quiz coming up. You can also get a very high-level overview of the entire year. The course is loaded, and if you click on the calendar here, you can scroll through month by month and see what the plan is for every single day, which does allow students that are eager to learn and can handle learning on their own. If they want to pace ahead, they can. Now, I also offer for every single chapter a note packet. It's a template of the notes that we go through in class and we fill in as we go along, or students can watch a video to also complete their notes if they choose to do that instead. There's also the homework is in here on the paper version of it. I do encourage them to do their homework on paper, and then ultimately they will answer their homework on the Schoology system. Overall, Schoology should always be able to answer their question, what are we doing today? What did I miss yesterday? What's coming up next week? If they go onto this system, all that information will be there. Now, what might a standard chapter look like? When you click into a chapter, you're going to see them organized in the very same fashion every single time, so we have that standard consistency. You will always find a resources folder for the chapter. In there is the blank note packet that I actually will hand out in class. And also there's a proficiency tracker of all the learning objectives we're going to learn. Now, typically, when I lecture on a particular section. So you're going to notice here, for example, section 1.1, and I have the title of it is listed. If you click into this actual folder, you'll see what the plan is for that section. But you're going to see every section is listed. Here after section 1.2, for example, I have a growth mindset activity. Then we go back into the notes for section 1.3. I bring in some ACT prep. We then have some multiple choice review to help us get ready for our 1.1 to 1.3 quiz, and then a worksheet in here. This worksheet will also have, at times, the answers posted so students can check the answers on their own. Then we have the formal quiz. And that process just starts all over. Here are the next 3 sections, a formal quiz, another section, and then for this particular chapter in this particular course, there happens to be a project. Projects may and may not happen on all chapters. After this project's completed, then you're going to see it says a chapter review. And this review worksheet is by learning objective. If you click into this assignment, you will find the answers for the review assignment in addition to a video of me going over every single problem. I was able for this one to make some multiple choice extra practice for chapter 1. There will be times where a note check will be required. This will be part of a formative assessment, and then the chapter test would come up. After this chapter test, which is a summative assessment, has been completed, if needed, students will have the option to go through and retake the test one time if that is warranted. So what does the daily learning look like for a chapter? Well, if we click into one of those section folders, and for example, here I clicked in section folder 1.4, you're going to see a very similar process for every section in terms of there'll be some note-taking materials. So right here, you're going to see this first one says book notes. This is actually a PDF document of section 1.4 from our actual textbook, if students want to have the textbook electronically. This here is a video notes, and this is a video notes for Learning Objective 1.4a. You're then going to have a green puzzle piece, which is your daily assignment. This is 1.4a, and here's the topic of that learning objective. This is the homework that will be submitted. It then repeats itself for the other learning objectives. I like to teach by learning objective to keep the lessons shorter and to keep them more manageable for the students. So this was the second lesson within this actual section and the homework associated to those learning objectives. This one here happens to have a third video and one last homework section. Sometimes this entire section will be taught in a day. Sometimes it'll be broken up if some of the learning objectives are long. Now, you're going to notice, again, the book notes and the videos are available, but I will tell you when it comes to taking notes, the first thing is students will get a note packet from me. Most students like the note packets to follow along with, but there are a handful that like to use their own notebooks, and that's totally fine. There are some chapters where I will require a formative assessment of their notes. At the time of the test, they'll turn in their notes, and I will grade them as a formative grade based on the quality of their note-taking. Now, to take notes, there's really three options here. Most of the students will do this, the class instruction or the seminar, where I will lecture about 3 or 4 times a week on the particular material. A lot of students do like that format. However, there's a good handful that also just prefer the videos. Students can watch the videos before class if they'd like. If they have and they're ready to work on homework by the time I'm lecturing, I do let them flex out into the high school's open area spaces and work on their assignment. These videos are also good if you partook in the lecture, but you still had some more questions. Maybe you wanted to hear another problem again. Or the videos are great if you've been absent and you need to be caught up on the notes. Now, there's always the option, too, to read the textbook. Not many students choose this option, but it is one I support if it's a student's style of learning. So after the notes have been taken, there's typically about 20 to 25 minutes of work time to work on their formative assessments or their daily homework, which is actually by learning objective. So when you look up here for this particular section, you're going to notice that there's 1, 2, 3 different videos, and they're broken down by learning objective. And you're going to see that there's 5 green puzzle pieces for this section. The homework for this entire section is actually broken up into 5 little pieces by learning objective to keep the learning more manageable and easier for students to really follow along. So students are going to want to do their work in their packets or on their own notebook paper, and then they go into Schoology on these actual puzzle pieces and they submit their homework, and it gets corrected immediately. They have 3 times to submit their homework to try to get a proficient score. Now, the proficiency level does vary based on the actual course. If you're in a course where you have to be 70% proficient, then if you did not meet 70% or higher after 3 times, you must seek me out to get some help. Once you've got your answers clarified, I will unlock it and let you submit a 4th time to hopefully get above the 70% proficiency, which would then let you move on. Now, in theory, assignments are due the next day. That's when I will go over questions in class. However, the formal deadline for them is either when the quiz is coming up or the test related to the chapter, whichever is first on that. Keep in mind, there's also times in addition to these green puzzle pieces, students may be asked to take a photo of their work that they've done on the paper and submit it for another grade. This particular section on box plots does have an upload student work related to learning objectives B and C. Now, the summative assessments. These are the quizzes and the tests. There's actually 3 different versions of quizzes. There's a pre-quiz, a formal quiz, and a retake, all done by learning objective. This right here is a quick snapshot of what the quizzes would look like. You're going to see the learning objective number and the definition of the learning objective, and then a problem or two related to that learning objective. Before we start new material, students will have the option to take a pre-quiz. If they are proficient on a particular learning objective, they are able to skip that learning objective and they do not have to do the daily homework assignment for it. So they take this quiz on paper and I correct it. If they get it correct, I would give them a check mark and I would go into Schoology and exempt them out from doing the homework on section 1.1a. Again, this is an optional thing to do. Now, when it comes time for that formal quiz, means we've finished the lecture and we've done the daily homework. It is very important on the day of the formal quiz, all uncompleted formative assessments, basically those green puzzle pieces in the folders, that are related to the formal quiz will earn a zero on the formal quiz day. So on the quiz day, you need to take the quiz. If your homework is not done on Schoology, I'm going to default it to a 0, and that's the score you're going to get on it. So that is the official deadline. Also, on this formal quiz day, you will take the entire quiz, every learning objective, even if you were proficient on a learning objective in the pre-quiz. This is your time to formally show me that you know how to do the concept. Now, when I return the quiz, if you're not happy with it, you can retake the quiz only for the missed learning objectives, which means on the formal quiz, if you got this learning objective correct, I'm not going to make you redo that topic on the retake. You would just take the ones that you missed. Let's say, for example, you missed section 1.1b. What do you have to do to retake? To retake, you must correct the original quiz as your relearning activity. So you would take your quiz with you, make your corrections. Then when you're ready to retake, bring your quiz and their corrections in, and that's your ticket to retake. Now, the retake deadline is 1 day before the test, even if you were absent on prior days. So for example, if we have had 2 quizzes in one chapter, when that chapter test comes up, all those quizzes have to be done the day before the test. Now, in terms of tests must be taken on the assigned day. Keep this in mind. The other thing is the tests are then going to be retakeable. Once the test is completed and it is released to everyone, the retake process will begin. How the test retake process works is the first and foremost is this. All Schoology formative assessments must be adequately done. That means you must redo if a 0 was earned during a chapter. So remember, when it came time for the formal quiz, if you didn't have homework done, I changed it to a 0. You must go get those zeros out of there and redo the learning. You have to do the learning the first time to even qualify for the retake. Now, if you fix those zeros and you've done the work adequately, you now go to step 2, the relearning task. Again, this must be adequately completed, not just halfway done. This is all about the learning. The task is this. Find the assigned problems for missed learning objectives in your proficiency tracker. This is found on the very front page of every note packet. And then on a separate piece of paper, you're going to do your work. Then you can check the solutions and you can seek me for any help if you need to. When you're ready to retake, you're going to turn in your relearning work on the day of your retake. So right here is an example of a proficiency tracker. These are the problems that are assigned to do for retakes. So on the test, if you missed, for example, learning objective 1.1c and 1.2a, you would need to do these particular problems in the relearning. I am more than happy to help students go through the proficiency tracker as they prepare for their relearning to determine which tasks they must do. Now, the retake must be done during school hours by the assigned deadline. Again, even if you were absent on prior days. Also, the new score is what will be recorded even if you did worse on the retake. So be very thoughtful on if the retake is right for you. So this is the overview of proficiency-based personalized learning by learning objective in Mrs. Landon's math classroom. Feel free to email or call with any questions or concerns. Thanks and have a great day.